Oh, September 8th. And
just a reminder that we're recording this meeting.
yes, I just check, okay. And I want to let us all know that Hillary will not be with us today. Her mother is dying, and she's with her mother. So I would like us to send her love and caring thoughts and prayers. And we need someone to take notes. How do we do this, Carley, when we don't have our secretary?
Anybody else can, whoever's able, it looks like Sophie might be, are you volunteering, Sophie? Yeah, so Sophie can just take notes.
Perfect, thank
type them
you.
up, and then we'll get the formatting afterwards.
Great. Thank you, Sophie.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome. I don't think we have any public visitors today, do we? Carley?
I don't see anybody here except for one phone attendee, and that might be John. I'm not sure, or if somebody's calling in. We have the person on the phone just has a phone number, so I'm not sure. Is that you, John?
It may be me, Jing.
No, Jim, are you 503-707-2568?
No.
No, and you're not on mute. This phone is on mute.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to work it out with John while we continue. Go ahead and continue,
Perfect.
Martha, and I'm going to still work with John.
So our next agenda item is approval of our August minutes. Any edits or amendments?
I motion to approve.
Okay, and a second?
I second.
Okay.
I second.
So Sophie, what did you recommend? I don't even know.
I motion to approve.
Motion, and Suzanne seconds. Perfect. Okay, we're going to have a BCOA overview in terms of what I want to do is cover upcoming events. And our H cafes are still running. We have 4 through the months of September and October from 11 to noon. September is 11th and 25th, and October 9th and 23rd. And those are from 11 to noon. Our death cafes start on the 9th, which is tomorrow, and they will be 11 to noon. And we have 2 in September, the 9th and the 23rd, and October 24th and 31st. And then our Aging with Grace is offered by Viva Village. And this is the one that is the 4 Saturdays in October, the 10th, 17th, 24th, and 31st. So these 4 hour-and-a-half sessions, which will go from 11 to noon 30, I believe, are all about if you're choosing to stay in your own home, how do you do that? How do you make it user-friendly? How do you declutter? How do you make it safe? So that's what that whole month is all about, is how do you stay self-independent as well as safe in your environment. So that's the broad stroke overview that I have. So Suzanne, if you have anything to add to that, that would be very welcome.
The only thing that I would have to add is that there has been, I know, there's been a tremendous amount of work put into this, and they have gone out and interviewed the people, that they particularly wanted to present. They had a big decision to make about whether or not to try and do this virtually or not. And there's a lot of things that trying to do virtually are really hard to do virtually. And so they've picked these things in order to really be of some help. And these people, I think that they will be I know these people, happen to know a lot of the people that are presenting, and I think, and I know how helpful they are. I was saying to you earlier that I have been in with a couple of people who were doing the helping people to get rid of stuff, and while I've always really shied away from that because I thought it would be so hard for me to do. These people do a wonderful job. They really help you with the emotional aspects, and that's what they're there for, to help you with the emotional aspects as well as everything else. I think they're great. So I think they're all well worthwhile.
Good.
So, Suzanne, is the series mostly related to staying at home, staying
Yes.
in place?
All
Okay,
staying
so
in
it's not
place.
aging with grace, like not you're having too many
No.
birthdays.
No, it would have
No.
been a totally different thing to try and do that. The other ones have been, as you probably remember.
Yeah,
But these ones are all related to when you're staying in your own place as long as you absolutely can. And how do you do that? How do you make for example, how do you make yourself safe? So they're having this woman that did the earthquake one for us a couple of years ago to come and talk about fire safety and fire prevention and what kinds of supplies you need in your house, to have to make you safe so that you can stay there if you possibly can.
hey, well, are they going to be sending out something to everybody who's on their mailing list? Will we
Yes.
get something independently of this meeting?
You will.
Yes,
Great.
In fact, one of the things Viva Village was asking us about as the BCOA was, what are some ways that we can help them market?
yeah,
Oh, that's right.
And this is specifically for people who are staying in their own homes or their own apartments.
right.
It's not for people who live in independent living facilities or communities or nursing homes or residential homes. So this is for people who are in their own condo, house, or apartment.
And plan to stay there until they're, as my aunt would have said, hauled out feet first.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right. And the aging with grace part, Bev, is all about how do we live independently with community support.
Okay.
Okay. So any ideas that you come up with in terms of how we can help them market would be very helpful for Viva Village. And they have done an outstanding job. There will be presentations for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and then at least 45 minutes to a half an hour for question and answering period. And it will all be virtual. And I believe they're going to record and save the webinars so that you can revisit them.
Yeah, since they are recording them anyway, they are going to. Yeah,
So it's very exciting.
yeah, it is exciting.
And marketing will start very soon.
And the marketing part, I think in terms of what they're looking for is person-to-person contact. Like, it's not like you're going and putting in posters in Fred Meyer or something. It's just talking to everybody you know. And like the churches all are having groups, and they send out things about what's going on in the community and that sort of thing. And we can add to those. Somebody can add to whatever the church is, and et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And they do have a brochure that looks just like a bookmark that will be coming out.
Yeah.
So that all of us will receive one of those.
Yeah, that'll help a lot.
We can then pass on to someone that we know might benefit from the program.
I'm sure if we need more, I can get more.
Okay.
I mean, I can get a bunch to hand out to people. If they have people, they can hand it out to, you know. Yeah.
I do just want to comment that our next Age Cafe, the question is, what's more important, quantity of life or quality of life? So our Age Cafes have been really wonderful. They're wide open discussion times, and We break into smaller groups with a facilitator for each group. So come and join us. They're really, really quite delightful. I've learned a lot. So that's just in a nutshell what's happening in our community. And anything anybody else would like to add that they know of that's happening that we were not aware of.
This is John. When is
John.
the, I finally made it in here and figured out the computer system.
Phew.
Yeah.
It was harder today. I found it
Yeah.
harder.
Anyway, what is the dates of the Age Cafe?
H Cafe is September 11th and 25th, and then October 9th and 23rd. It's every other Friday
Okay.
from
That's on the
11 to
website.
noon. And
that
that's
right?
virtual. Yes, there is
11
a
o'clock?
11 to noon. It's through Viva Village. So I'll send out, can I send something to you, Carly, and you can send it out? Okay, so I will take charge of sending out to Carly the invite, and she'll email it to everyone. Okay. Okay. Carly, you're up to introduce to us Megan. Is this good time?
Well, we're just a little ahead of schedule, I think. She's
Then I'll-
not quite here yet, so maybe we can jump ahead to the next,
Jump ahead.
whatever we have to do next,
We'll
and
jump
then
ahead.
come back when she gets here.
Perfect. So we are going to talk about our resource panel webinars that the subcommittee has put together. And we have our 3 webinar ideas, which are health, connection, and safety. Sunita is going to do health. Suzanne is going to be the point person for connection. And we do need a person for safety. So these are webinars that we're going to offer one a month for October, November, and December. And we're looking at people who are not connected with any, they're not going to H Cafe, they're not going to Deaf Cafe. They may not, the Viva Village Aging with Grace may not be relevant for them. So we're trying to reach out to other people who are not connected right now. And so we're looking at 2 speakers per each webinar with a time for question and answer. And we're opening up, we need resource ideas for health, connection, and safety. So I know Lou is our safety extraordinaire contact. And so anything else that people have to offer for ideas for speakers for one or all, we're wide open. So please.
This is John. I could work on the health part.
Okay, great, John. Well, you and Sunita could do that. We'll connect you with Sunita. Perfect.
Okay.
Can we just, maybe Martha, just clarify what you meant by that, like it's really to have a point person to find the speakers and coordinate that. That's
So,
right.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and then Sunita and you, John, can work on finding point people in terms of health. Like a big resource would be Kira from Washington County.
I'm already on her.
What?
I said I want her. She's a
And-
mental health expert. I want her for connection. She's done so much, but it doesn't mean that she couldn't present twice.
Well, we talked about connection being technology. So, okay, we're not clear on what our,
Yeah, I thought connection meant connecting with people.
well, it is, but people also need to
I
connect
know,
with.
but I'm not good with the technology part. Don't we have somebody who's better with that can help me? Let's put it that way. They can
Well,
help
let's
me. with
throw it
tech-
out to the group. Bev?
How about
Can we
Francesca?
perhaps start by having each of the focus terminology clearly identified for us so that we know what it is?
Yeah, I didn't even know. I went to the meeting.
Well, health is for physical and mental health. And then connection, we talked about, as my understanding was with technology, because so many things are on Zoom or internet connections. And then safety is all about, there are all kinds of new scams coming up with us all being.
So yeah, that was helpful because the safety is fairly broad.
Yes.
Right. I mean, it could be physical safety. I mean, safety covers a lot. So it
Right.
would be helpful to me if you're at least understanding what the focus exactly is.
Well,
If you're
it's
talking
getting scammed.
So it's fraud.
What, fraud?
That doesn't
Scam
sound
fraud.
like safety to me. I've been in the safety profession for a long time, and that doesn't sound like safety.
What do you mean it doesn't
Yeah.
sound like safety?
well, I agree with John, actually.
It sounds more like crime prevention.
Well, let's say crime prevention.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
Isn't that
I-
safety?
I guess that's what I mean by, I think we need to define what our focus word or terminology mean.
Yeah.
Because we're
That's
all
what I-
coming up with something different.
Well,
you can
but
talk
this
about
is what the
public
committee,
safety.
we're telling you what the committee has decided. So safety is all about stuff that you can get scammed by telephone or internet.
Hey, Martha,
Yeah,
I would be
So
interested.
it's not about preventing falls or
well,
things like that.
I know it's a huge topic, but we can't cover it all.
No, what I'm saying is that as a safety professional, that I've been in the thing for 30 plus years,
Mhm.
this is more like public safety. Okay,
Okay.
like police action.
Let's have Sophie, what were your,
Yeah, I wanted to just share, I would be happy to be the point person for the safety.
okay,
And then potentially if you had ideas, you could send them my way. We might have these great ideas, but actually making them come true might be more of a challenge. So my thought is maybe you give the ideas to that point person, and that point person can sort out what we can actually, because maybe there's a speaker that could be available that might cover a topic that we talked about, but we didn't fully maybe agree upon, if that makes sense. So maybe we can be a little more flexible with what safety.
Well, oh, go ahead. I mean, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
No.
The thing is, Viva Village is doing one whole segment on
home
safety, et cetera, in the home, and how to do it and how to make your home over. They're going to have somebody who contracts to put in the ramps and make the bathroom different, and et cetera, things that can happen that you need. Which is the ones that I have actually watched go out there and talk about it. But, well, because I do it myself. That's one of the things I used to do. We were disability consultants, but
Okay.
yeah, I sort of think of safety at this time in that way, only because another reason would be because we just did last year this big safety thing, and we covered fraud and et cetera. So, and the village is doing it. So I'm wondering if we can figure out some kind of a thing that somebody didn't just do or isn't doing, and do that. And we should be able to
well,
understand.
Viva Village is not covering internet fraud or phone fraud. In their
No. I
presentation.
mean, if that is what you have meant, if that is what you're taking on, Sophie, then I think that's great. I mean, that's wonderful. It's
Well,
just,
I'm
go ahead.
thinking if you guys have ideas, you could send them to the point person, and then that point person can sort out what makes sense for speaker, what makes sense for the webinar.
What do you want to know? Yeah.
Yeah, and then we can actually make happen what is logistical, because
Yeah.
we might think that fraud is a great topic to cover, but then maybe we don't find a speaker that's relevant or
So-
what have you.
So Sophie, yeah, as someone said earlier, we did an event. Was that, I can't even remember now.
I thought
that
it was last year.
I think it was last year,
Mhm.
last November, right?
Yeah.
So we did an event, and I was the one who was able to get the speakers for that event. I think it was one from the state of Oregon, one from the Washington County Sheriffs, and one from, I can't remember now. Anyway, so and they were all centered on the same area: fraud, internet fraud, phone fraud, scams, all those kind of things. So, yeah, I'm not clear what if the committee's agreed on what safety means in this for this webinar. But if those are if you would like, and I don't know the parameters of, you know, how much time each speaker is going to have and if they're available and the timing when we're going to do this. But I could provide you, you know, the point person, which I think is a good idea. If you want those contacts,
Yes.
I can send them to you, and then once the committee and you decide where you want to go, you can decide if they're relevant or helpful or not. So I can get that to you. So
Thank you, Lou. That would be very helpful.
I don't know that I have your email address necessarily. How do you guys want to handle this? You know, are you gonna?
Well, I think we have don't we have, everybody has a list of members with emails next to it?
Where
I
would
think
that?
Carley sent that to all of us.
Oh,
We can connect after the meeting.
I'm happy to resend that to everybody just to have it kind of at the top of your emails. It's no problem.
if you don't mind, I'm sorry, Carley, give you more
Oh,
work.
that's
So,
totally fine. You know what? Probably you're not the only one that doesn't have that saved right at the top of your list.
I think that's helpful. So if everybody is agreeable, I will send the contacts information, at least for the safety section, to Sophie, and then, you know, we'll decide later if that's going to work or not. All right. Thank you.
The main reason why we chose internet and phone safety right now is because everybody's at home and it's changed. All the fraud and the
It has
scams
changed,
have
yeah.
changed. So
I've had 3 today.
it's really important to keep you know, present with what's happening for people. And how do you say no?
Maybe we could talk about, maybe kind of focus on the way that things have changed in this time frame, because it all happened incredibly quickly. No one was prepared for it. And the results have been disastrous in some cases.
Yep.
You know, that might help. It would certainly help me. I know that, you know, and I at least can do Zoom.
Okay.
But a lot of these people, maybe we could do that.
Well, we'll put that on our next subcommittee meeting with the 5 of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay,
Right.
good. And so these webinars will be taped and recorded, actually, and put on our BCOA website, so anybody can revisit them, or somebody who might have missed a time can go to the website and view it again. So we need to come up with some dates. Valuable time is valuable. I know the H Café is every other Friday. The Death Café is 2 meetings in September and October. So I think the subcommittee needs to come up with some dates that will work for all of us. So we'll
What do you
put that
think in
on
terms of time? I mean,
We're
time.
looking at an hour and a half.
Yeah, okay.
An hour and a half.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we will put that on our agenda item for dates and time.
Okay.
Okie dokie.
Martha,
Yes.
I have my hand up.
I got you.
Okay, is the subcommittee now made up of everyone who is chairing one of the events?
Yes. So the subcommittee includes Sophie, Suzanne, Sunita, Carley, and myself.
Okay, but who just volunteered to be on one of the?
Well,
focus?
Sunita is on health, Suzanne is on connections, and Sophie is on safety.
Okay, but who at this meeting just volunteered to be part of one of those?
John is going to help Sunita with health, and Lou is going to give Sophie a feedback on safety.
Yeah, and I'm not on the committee. I think my
She's not on-
understanding,
right.
I'm not on the committee. I'm just going to be a resource.
A resource. So if you want to help somebody, please offer up. It doesn't mean that you are committed to any other meetings or that you have to show up somewhere. But if you have ideas to connect with, and these will all come out in the minutes, who's who. So if you have ideas, to please share them.
Well, I think what I'm going to do in terms of the connection then, in as much as I misunderstood the whole point, is take the stuff that's happened in this year that, you know, that has made connection via technology and et cetera, even more important.
Yes.
And find somebody who actually knows something about that and knows how to help people get through these problems or even get on for the first time and that sort of thing, and what kinds of things should they do, et cetera. I think
Perfect.
I'll do that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And one doesn't have to know everything about each
No.
topic to be
No.
the point person.
No, exactly.
Thank you,
Because
Suzanne.
because I don't know.
No, I don't either. So, but sometimes when we're learning something, the best way to do is to actually go out and figure it out.
That's what I'm figuring. If I can find people who can tell me,
Right.
then I know there's a lot of people who are going to need to know that stuff.
That are in your shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, great. So we're in process. The subcommittee will meet again and we'll get tighter and we'll figure it out. So we're on our journey to creating our webinars. So I see Megan is here. Welcome, Megan.
Where's
Carley,
Megan?
are you still, there you are. So
Yes.
Carley,
So late. I had class.
oh, I'm glad you're here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Carley, do you want to,
Yeah.
hi, Sunita.
Sunita.
So
Carley, you're on.
So thanks, Megan. Thanks for making it. Yeah, Megan's going to join our meetings now, but since she has class on Tuesdays, and she'll be coming in at 3:30 for our meetings. So in case anybody missed my emails, Megan is interning with the city and specifically working with the BCOA. Megan, you may see Marc, Soucie, Councilor Soucie is on our committee. I'm not sure if you saw those emails or not, but so Megan's helping with the BCOA. And so she has just now started. This is like basically week 1 of a remote internship. And I'm her supervisor here at the city. And in this time, so she's going to be helping with some of these projects. So all of the stuff that we were just talking about in terms of the event that's coming up, Megan's going to be able to help with that. And the first thing that I'm going to have her do is call each of you individually. So she has a 714 number. So be looking for that. When you get that, if you don't know it, you don't remember that, then she'll leave you a voicemail so that you can know that it's a real person. Speaking of scams, so that you know that, or she can arrange a time to talk to you if you're working and want to.
Carley, can I ask a question? Would it be okay, or I can ask Megan directly, if I had your phone number, I could put it in my contact list, and then when you call me, I'll know it's you. Would that okay? You give us your phone number now? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that would absolutely be the easiest way to do that. That's a good idea.
Well, and we can just send that out via email. You don't have to put it there in the chat since we're recording the meeting for the public.
Right.
So,
okay.
So we'll do that outside. We can pass on your phone number. And if you're okay with that, then I'll share it with the committee. But I really wanted Megan to be able to have a chance to introduce herself and to be able to share a little bit about her, just a little bit about her background and what drove her to this particular type of work. Because I know that she's excited to work with you all and vice versa. And I shared with her that you were all looking forward to getting to know her a little bit. So Megan, if you just want to tell us a little bit, and then as you get to talk to everybody over the phone, then you'll get to know all of the committee members a little bit better. And we won't do all of that right now, but you'll get to talk to everybody one-on-one too. So go ahead, Megan.
Perfect. Yeah. So my name is Megan. I'm originally from California. I just moved up here a few weeks ago. I'm doing my master's program at George Fox University right now at the Portland campus, Zoom campus actually. And so I've been doing that. My end goal for once I graduate is to be a geriatric therapist. So essentially I want to work in nursing homes, post-acute facilities, anything of that nature, assisted living, and just being an extra advocate for the residents of those facilities in making sure that they're, I'm so sorry, comfortable and that everything is essentially to their liking. And if there are issues, we can discuss them further. So yeah, that is pretty much that. But I'm really excited to be a part of this committee and to be working with all of you in your different projects and things and reaching the community, especially during this time. It's very difficult. I know for my community back home, it was really hard for them. A lot of my home church is mostly 80 years old and above, and so for them getting out was really difficult. So we had actually put together a committee ourselves to go out and deliver food to them, to go grocery shopping for them, communicate a little bit, do wellness check-ins, phone calls every couple of weeks or so, just to check in with everybody. So some of the things that you guys are doing now is right up my alley. So I'm very excited to be a part of this and see what else you guys are going to be working on during this time.
Welcome.
And Martha, I think we have enough time if there was any kind of initial questions for Megan. I think we have time for that. We wanted you all to be able to just have a little bit of a conversation if anybody had anything on that you wanted to say.
So any questions or comments for Megan?
We're glad she's here.
Yeah,
Megan,
I'm curious. I do have one question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, Megan, what is it that got you interested in geriatric work?
So actually at my undergrad, my statistics professor was a geriatric psychologist. And so I got to intern with him for the last 2 years. So I got to go to those facilities with him and see what he does. And I just absolutely fell in love with the work that he was doing and the people that he was working with. They are wonderful individuals, and they're just really fun to see and check in on every week. So yeah, that's really how I got started here. Yeah.
Well, if you decide to go any further than you're already thinking of going, there's a distinct shortage of geriatric psychologists on planet Earth, certainly in the state of Oregon as well. So thank you for getting into the field.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, I have a question. What is your exact major at George Fox, and what are you considering a thesis or something like that?
Yes, so my major currently at George Fox is social work. I majored in California in psychology. As of current, I don't have a thesis. Not sure if I will have the chance to write one. Not sure if that's part of this program specifically. But I'm open to suggestions if you have.
Okay.
Bev.
How long will you be with us as an intern?
I will be here until April, I believe, right, Carly? Yeah, until April. So yes, I will be here from September to April.
Okay.
That's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So Megan, what are some things that you would like to accomplish as an intern with the BCOA?
Yeah, great question. I'm really excited about learning how to do community work mostly. My experience has been more one-on-one with individuals. So I'm really curious to see how the community-based work is done in the different programs that you can do through that, especially working through the city. And I had another thing and I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, just how everything works, like how you can promote things, because I know Carley and I talked briefly about some of the things, some of your ideas, and I was trying to figure out how to make it all work, but there's a lot of things that you can and can't do working through the city, so just trying to figure out how all that works.
Yeah, well, welcome. We're really glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
One last question. What are
Lou.
your hobbies?
Oh.
So currently my hobbies are homework. That takes a lot of my spare time that I don't have.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, but I really love movies. I'm a big movie person. I've watched not pretty much everything, but all genres except for horror. Not a fan of horror movies.
Lou.
Thank
You have a
you.
question?
Hi, Megan. Welcome. Maybe you said this already, so I apologize. What brought you from California to Oregon and specifically George Fox?
Yeah, another great question. So all of my family is actually from Tacoma, Washington. So I spent a lot of my childhood in Tacoma for Christmas and summer, and I just really love the seasons. We don't have that in California. It's about 75 degrees all year long. So I'm really, that was my biggest draw. And because I've lived in California my whole life and I went to my undergrad in California, I was really excited for a change of pace, city-wise and people-wise as well. There's a lot of diversity here in Oregon in a lot of different ways. So yeah, that was my big draw to Oregon.
Wonderful. Any other questions for Megan? Well, thank you. Glad to have you, Megan. Looking forward to chatting with you on the phone and getting involved.
Yes, thank you. I'm really excited for all of our phone calls and to hear all of your ideas and get to know you all better as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, next up is Marc for our City Council update.
Let me just unmute myself a little bit here. Got a few things that I can mention for you. As we've talked about before, we're beginning to get into a transitional point in time for the city with a change in form of government coming up in January. There are certain things that are trailing off now and certain other things that are ramping up. So there is a project underway that's being led by several senior members of staff plus Councilor Fagan, who was deputized by the council and the mayor to kind of lead the project to develop timelines for some of the decisions that have to be made, such as hiring an interim city manager and making sure that a number of other structural and legal modifications to city code and things get done in a timely manner so that we don't trip over ourselves as we enter January. But the goal is to enter January with an interim city manager hired and ready to go on the very first day of the year when the new charter officially takes effect. Meanwhile, we have some other things going on. Tonight at our council meeting, we're going to be swearing in a new associate judge for our municipal court. For a long time, the municipal court had one judge. And then about 8 or 10 years ago, the city started with a part-time associate judge, and that became a full-time position a few years back. And then we had some personnel turnover. We brought in a new presiding judge. And then we had some more turnover and we had an opening and we decided to fill it with 2 associate judges. So the municipal court will have 3 judges. And that'll give us a little bit more sort of spare bandwidth for the judges so that one can be off at a conference and they can still cover the court duties of the day. That way the judges can get more individual training. They can get more ideas from other courts around the country. The conferences are very valuable for things like that. That's one way, for instance, that the Be Sober program was brought to Beaverton. It was modeled after some DUI courts in other jurisdictions around the country. So we're swearing in our first associate judge tonight, and we'll have an executive session at the end of the meeting where we're going to talk about the candidates who applied for the second associate judge position. And if that goes well, we'll bring those candidates in for interviews over the next 3 weeks and hopefully hire somebody and get them ready to sign on and be an associate judge in the city starting probably, I would guess, in November sometime. In addition to that, you know, just because we like to have lots of fun things to do, you all know that we have an election coming up in November, which involves federal things and state things and county things and regional things and local things. The local things are that we have a competitive race for mayor. We have 2 candidates. We have a brand new city council seat that got created by the new charter that is seat number 6 on the council. And there are 3 candidates for that who will be vying for that. And it is a winner take all. There's no runoff involved in this particular election. So whoever gets the most votes in November gets to be the city councilor come January. Because we have these competitive races going on, we will have a city voters forum. It will probably be held in a Zoom conference or something like that, maybe one of the other technologies. That is going to be scheduled for Wednesday, October 14th, which alert readers may recognize as the day after your next meeting. So if you're interested in knowing who your candidates are for city council and mayor, you may want to tune in to that voter forum, because I think they will also have, at the very least, the 2 candidates for the county commission seat that represents about 2/3 of the population of Beaverton. That's District 1, which is currently represented by Dick Scouten, who has resigned or is retiring from the County Board of Commissioners. And there are 2 candidates for what is now an open seat. They met in the primary back in May. There were at least 1 or 2 other candidates back then, and these 2 came up with the most votes. So we'll have at least those 3 local races. I think there's some state rep and state senate races as well. There's all sorts of goodies, and it's up to our own Beaverton Committee on Community Involvement to decide which candidates will be appearing at the forum. The city council does not get involved in that decision. It's done entirely by that committee. They make that decision. But they do also encourage people to submit questions for candidates. So if you get a newsletter or an email from the BCCI about the voters forum, and if you have questions that you would like to be asked of the candidates, by all means submit your questions, and they may be chosen. I'm crossing my fingers that we get our longtime super moderator, Eric Schmidt, coming back to support the voters forum this year. Don't know if he will, but every time he does, it makes for a great forum. And he always asks questions in a very entertaining but professional manner. So it's one of my favorite events of the year, whether I'm on camera during the event or whether I'm just watching it. The voters forum is one of those places where the city of Beaverton really comes together. Last but not least, I'll mention we are continuing the background work, information gathering and conversations being held in a couple of different ways to learn about what we may want to consider doing in the realm of adjusting our policing policies and our policing activities. We have discussions going on right now at the Human Rights Advisory Commission, which is another one of our advisory boards. They're meeting with representatives of the police department on a number of topics over the last few months, and they're going to be putting together a report for us. And we also hired a consultant to go out and meet with community groups to ask a whole lot of questions and get a lot of feedback. And we will be getting a report from that consultant at our September 15th council meeting next week. And of course, we hear from members of the community about policing matters pretty much every council meeting these days. So if you're interested to know what those people who tend to be the same people every time, but that's okay. If you want to hear what they have to say, feel free to tune into our council meetings or check out the video afterwards, because our council videos are always available later on for convenient viewing. So that's kind of the main things that are going on. There's a whole lot of other miscellaneous construction projects and planning projects and things, but I'll stop there and see if anybody has any questions. Yes, you're muted, Martha.
What community groups is this consultant meeting with?
Well, I can actually tell you the answer to that question in just a moment here.
Oh, good.
We just got a memo. Individuals present in these sessions represented Sunrise Beaverton, Beaverton Pride, Beaverton Youth Advisory Board, Centro Cultural de Washington County, Let's Peer Up, Luke Dorff Homeless Services, Adelante Mujeres, Oregon Chinese Coalition, Beaverton Families for Equity, APANO, Beaverton Black Parent Initiative, Beaverton School District / Beaverton Multicultural Education Committee, members of the Human Rights Advisory Commission, members of the Diversity Advisory Board, Home Plate Youth Services, and Community Action.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll see what the report has in it, but we wanted to get a real broad spectrum of input from people, and it looks like the consultant was able to reach a lot of people.
Awesome. Well done. Any other, Bev?
Yes, can you tell me, how do individual citizens give input?
Well, you know that we are always available by email, and those of you who are clever enough to do a little Googling can always find our phone numbers. We read all the emails that we get. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's very few, but I read every email that anybody sends to me. I don't respond to everyone. There's an awful lot we get that are kind of form emails where it's the same message with a few words changed. And I don't personally take the time to answer all of those, but I do take note of the messages that are passed along in those. And if 40 people have bothered to send the same message, I take note that 40 people sent the same message, and it's kind of, you know, got some weight behind it. But that's the main way to contact any one of us, is just drop an email, or stop by City Hall sometime when we're there, like next year.
Okay, but how do you get, if you're going to get a report and you have someone who is putting together that report, how do you get information to that group?
You know, that's an interesting question. I don't know if her process is going to let anybody throw comments in, but if you want to do that, I can ask Carley maybe to forward Cece Ritter's contact information. Cece is kind of the project manager in our city staff, and works with a consultant on this project. And Cece would be able to take your email and forward it over, or at least consider how to fit it into the process. I didn't structure the process, so I can't tell you exactly how your feedback would be used, but you're welcome to send some comments in. At the very least, if you send them to me or send them to Carley, we can forward them over.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Any other questions for Marc?
Marc, are you or the other counselors, do you make endorsements on the county commissioners race?
Yes, I always take advantage of my role as an elected person to make endorsements in races where I think it will help get a better candidate. And so I have endorsed a candidate for the county commission seat, I have endorsed a candidate for the council seat, and I have endorsed a candidate for the mayor's seat.
Okay, and well, that is publicly noted, right? That's, I mean, or is that?
Well,
is
not
that,
necessarily.
or,
it's up to the candidate
okay.
to decide whether to use my name in any kind of public forum. If they're embarrassed that I endorse them, they probably won't. But the three candidates that I've endorsed for those three seats are probably likely, at the very least, to list me in the voters pamphlet. Some may use my endorsement,
okay, gotcha.
Social media post or something. It's really up to them. But each one of them asked me for my endorsement, and after talking to them, I agreed, and so I suspect you'll see my name attached to all three of them.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I wasn't sure how that worked. Thanks.
Yep.
So updates on construction, Marc. I noticed that the parking structure is evolving and the performing arts structure is evolving. It looks like everything's going to plan, but I'm not much of a construction person. So I was wondering if you could give us a little update.
Well, all I can tell you, I don't know the status of the parking structure timelines. I know that, you know, they have to go another story or two up still before they'll be finished.
Oh, wow.
But
okay.
Thursday morning, there is going to be a little ceremony, what they call a topping out ceremony for the PRCA, the Center for the Arts, where the final girder on the very highest point of the building will be set into place. And there's going to be an actual in-person ceremony where various dignitaries are going to be saying a few words and commemorating this sort of final step of the structural part of the construction. This is not a completion date. This is an interim date. They still have to put the shell on a significant portion of it. And then all of the interior finishes have to be done. And so the plan is still to have the Center for the Arts finished sometime in late summer to early fall of next year, with an opening date that they're still hoping will be in October, but you know, it depends on how things go.
Yeah.
My guess is the parking structure will be done by then as well, because it doesn't have interior finishings to worry about so much. It has some, but not so many. Certainly no woodwork and no chairs with upholstery and no engravings of names of donors and things like
Artwork.
that. Artwork, yes, all of that. The Center for the Arts has a lot of interior work left to do. I can also say that the Public Safety Center is complete and the police department moved into it over the last week.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if they're fully operational in the building yet. Carley may have more information on that, but I know that the big moving time was just this past week and weekend. So I'm looking forward to get in there to see it in its finished state soon.
Cool. Any other questions for Marc? Great, thank you, Marc. I love how you cover all our bases for us.
Sure.
Okay, Carley, you're going to give us a city update.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Okay,
Wonderful.
so let's see here. I'm gonna look just give me 1 second. I had this up here on my screen.
You can even have 2
Where-
seconds if you need it.
Okay, thank you. Well, it looks like Marc kind of shared a little bit about the community listening sessions that he was referring to. And so the specific description of it, I'll actually read because I think it gives even a little bit more context to Bev's question, is the city's hired an outside racial equity consultant to support the development of listening and dialogue sessions between a community and the city focused on policing and public safety. And the process is a series of 4 90-minute conversations to community organizations to participate. And the first one started August 19th. Let's see here. And in June, the city council passed the resolution denouncing systemic racism and committed to eliminate racism in the city structures and practices, and to work toward the elimination of institutional racism in our community and improve the lived experiences of all people of color. So this was specifically in response to this resolution and the other comments that have come in the last few months. And then I think I'm just trying to not repeat things that have already been said, and then there was the 4 work sessions that Marc, that you mentioned, and the outcomes are expected to include the development of a framework to move forward based on the residents' experiences around policing, public safety, health, race, and accountability, as well as some research and proposed changes to city policies that would address systemic racism.
Let me just add that we do not have any work sessions scheduled yet, because without having seen the details in the report, we don't know exactly what topics we would want to address and who we would want to invite to discuss those matters with us. But I think there will be discussion as part of the report next week about what next steps are for us, and that would include scheduling some work sessions.
Great, thanks for adding that. And then let's see, and all of these meetings, I'm not sure if you said this or not, the meetings being held with individuals and groups are done without city staff or a city official present, with the idea of them being able to share openly with the facilitator. And there's a link here that we'll include in the minutes for people to be able to follow up updates as they're posted and shared. The next one is the Welcoming Week, which is next week, September 12th through the 20th. And many of you may remember Beaverton Welcoming Week from previous years. This year's theme is Creating Home Together. And Welcoming Week, if you're not familiar with this, it's an annual series of events bringing together immigrants, refugees, and US-born residents to raise awareness of the benefits of welcoming everyone. And this year, the city is partnering with 8 community organizations through grants to support virtual and in-person, I think there's 2, in-person cultural exchange. Events include storytelling, music, and cultural celebrations, dance, cooking workshops, small business support, and much more. And then there's a link there. That, like I said, I'll put this in the minutes. And then, Marc, you already talked about there's the new city charter. So I don't know that there's anything, this is stuff you've already mentioned about the hiring of an interim city manager. And those are the major updates.
Wonderful.
All of the details will be put there in the minutes, so you can read the full sentences, but that Marc covered all the rest, so I don't want to repeat it all.
Right. Any questions for Carley? Yeah, Bev.
Yeah. It's a question that actually Marc might be the person with the information, and that is regarding protests. Are we experiencing any small or whatever protests in the Beaverton area boundaries? And secondly, are the Beaverton police involved in more of the statewide organization of law enforcement to assist Portland?
Let me answer the second question first. To the best of my knowledge, which I don't claim is 100% and comprehensive, Beaverton police have not been asked to participate in any of the activities in Portland or near Portland. So I believe the answer to that is no. As far as protests and demonstrations in the Beaverton area, there have been some, yes. Over the last couple of months, there have been a couple of rallies, one on the library lawn. There was a march that was organized by some students and parents of students at Beaverton School District that took place through Beaverton. There have been a few rallies and protests in front of City Hall, in the plaza right there in front of City Hall, originally associated with climate change requests, climate change protests. And then they sort of shifted over to addressing racial injustice issues after the George Floyd incident. So yes, there have been, they don't attract quite the same kind of activity or attention as what's been going on in Portland, but they are there. And I think if you take a look at the website for the Beaverton Valley Times, and it may be in the print edition, which I no longer get, but the Beaverton Valley Times posted an article just today about one of the groups that is an organizer of some of the rallies and protests. It's called Sunrise Beaverton. And you may find it interesting to read that article. It's really about that organization and their point of view and their perspective. It doesn't include a whole lot of interviews of other people, but it's still an interesting look at what this particular group of people are hoping to do. So you might want to check into that. I believe you can read 1 or 2 articles a month for free on the Valley Times website, but I personally subscribe, so I get to read everything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Carley or Marc?
What's the weather like on the coast, Carley?
Oh, well, you know, we lost power. It was smoky and windy here too last night, and we lost power at 11, and it came on about noon today. So I was like worried we were going to lose all the food, but we did not lose all of the food. But it's beautiful. Now it's beautiful. It's just a little breezy and 75. So sorry, everybody. I'm sort of on vacation right now.
And my sister lives in Bozeman, Montana, and it snowed today, so yay.
So wild.
Well, that's why we're having all this wind, actually, because of the cold front that moved down into that area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Any other questions for Carley or Marc? Well, we have some time left, so I would like to close our meeting with a question that to invite you to share. Here we are in interesting times with our new normal. What have you learned about yourself over the past 5-6 months in being self-quarantined and paying attention to a new normal?
This is John. I'll answer first here. The interesting thing is that in Beaverton, we have a lot of opportunities, even in quarantine, to get out and do our walking. Chris and I walk quite a lot. We've had several canoe trips on the Tualatin River. All of that is available still, and not as many people probably know about it, but even if you're older, you can get out and you don't have to be always in your house.
So
And
outdoors.
yeah, so we've been able to do that. And then, of course, we contact our sons and daughters-in-law by phone and that sort of thing to keep up to date.
Wonderful. Thank you, John. Who would like to share next? What have you learned about yourself?
Well, I'll go next if no one else is going.
Go, Bev.
What I have learned is, and I've shared this with my grandchildren because they need to hear it, is that being quarantined is a small price to pay. And I can remember, I lived in Washington, and I can remember as a teenager, young teenager, going to Seattle to the port to meet a big military ship that was bringing home 2 of my family members. And I think about that, and I think, you know, I have food, I have shelter, and my family is intact. And this is a small price to pay for each other and for ourselves. And we can do this.
Thank you, Bev. Who would like to go next? Okay, Sunita, hi. You're on mute, hon.
What I have learned by being in quarantine is that I think now people are very adaptable. And whatever we like, we have set our priorities. I think now that our time is not taken away from so many things, we are, at least I am choosing to do things that I want to do rather than being made to do something. And I think I feel more connected, like people, you know, like Zoom meetings, and we're meeting our kids more often through Zoom, not physically, but I miss that physical meetings. But I think people find and adapt and are doing things that they want to do more now. That's my personal, that's what I find. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Who would like to share next? I can call on you if you'd like me to. Okay, Laura, go girl.
I was just gonna say, because Sunita, I'm exactly the opposite. My job is harder, it takes longer. And I find that at the end of the day, when I turn off electronics, I'm not interested in finding out I don't want social media from anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm done staring at a screen. And I miss people. I mean, my job is networking. And it is so much harder. We pivoted really quickly. We have been busy. I'm doing my job well. They love me. I'm so grateful for that. But I'm really tired. It's just, the days are longer. And I don't get out.
That is very true.
It used to be, you know, because I had to drive places. I could park in the far lot and then walk, you know, and I would get out more. Yeah. And now I'm glued to this little box.
You're right about that. It's very hard to create boundaries. You know, like your time for work starts, like you're working more. But what I have found that I just set aside some time where I know I have to do my exercise, or I just make that time for myself. And because now I don't have to commute, I have more time for that. So, you know, I've set my priorities that this is what I want to do, and then I just do it. So.
Anybody else? Thank you, Laura and Sunita. Who else? What have you learned? Lou.
You know, these kind of situations, I think, you know, just sort of exaggerate or, you know, bring to the surface things you kind of knew already, but they bring them into sharp focus. And I think for me, it's just my privilege and how fortunate and maybe lucky too a little bit in my situation compared to a lot of folks in this country and the world. And it just makes me just more grateful for what I have and more interested in what I can do to give back at least money. I'm not demonstrating because I'm chicken and I'm worried about catching COVID-19, but I'm just, and of course I'm stuck in the house and I'd like to go travel and I'd love to do things. All that's true, but I'm just amazed at how lucky I am that I have a house and I just have things that a lot of people, maybe I took those things for granted. Just my back deck, I could sit out there and look at trees and read a book, and I'm just enjoying that more than I ever have. So I'm just grateful for everything.
Thank you. Sophie, you're on mute, hon.
I was working on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, I wanted to second what Lou said, so you don't have to hear it several times. But, it's interesting, when all of this happened, I kind of evaluated my life and I thought about what am I giving up? And it was a Disneyland trip. That's a great thing to be giving up, but that's a luxury that a lot of people don't have. It was, now I spend more time in front of a computer, sure, but I have internet to do so. Thank you. Grateful for that. I'm just kind of thinking about all the things in our country, even narrowed down to our city, that we are so privileged, so blessed to have, that so many other people, when they went into quarantine, they didn't have those things. I think about other countries and where they're located, and they really had to be creative. They couldn't sit at home and be on the internet or what have you. They had to be creative on the things that they were doing. So to second what Lou was saying, I'm just so grateful. But one thing I learned about myself was I'm more patient than I thought. I'm a millennial, so we're known for being like instant gratification and having things right at our fingertips. And I just, I want to give millennials a lot of credit, because we actually are a lot more patient, I think, than we get credit for. So I'm going to say that.
Oh, go.
That's all.
Share next. Thank you, Sophia. I'll share next.
I'll go next.
Oh, go.
Is it okay with you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm just trying to, I want us to end on time, so I'm just, go for it.
I'll try not to take up the next 15 minutes, although that will be difficult, as everyone knows. What I have learned is that, well, I have always worked hard. I know all of us work hard, but I was doing some things that were really sort of new to me, because I had my own little business, and it was gratifying to me, and yet at the same time, I had a really hard time charging people anything, so I ended up having to do a business without charging anybody. And but I found that doing what I was doing and helping people with grief and loss, when sometimes they don't even realize why they feel so depressed and so tired, and the grief and loss that we have all felt because of this situation. And the minute that we feel good, we get bonked with another thing. It has been really difficult for everybody. And so what I've learned is that I think that was why I signed up for communication, because I thought that's what we meant. And I'll do the other, but I just think it's so important to make sure that people have a way of talking to other people, to recognize what's going on with them, that they haven't even really realized. They just know they're tired, they know they're depressed, and they know they wish all of this would end. So that's what I've learned.
Wonderful. Jing, would you like to share your light? Your name keeps lighting up.
Yes. I think it makes me realize more about how important our job is in the children's hospital. because during the March and April, we canceled all our appointments, but as soon as we reopen, many families volunteer to call us to try to reschedule, and we have new policy, new procedures, and I see cooperative families follow every new guidelines and being very supportive to each other just to make sure their children's care is being provided, and we feel that our service to them is very important, regardless of the current situation. So that makes me feel more proud of coming to work every day to help the children.
Yeah.
And I also feel lucky to live in Portland because we live in such a beautiful place with many places to explore without traveling far. That's very important in this difficult time. Yeah. And I'm lucky to continue playing tennis. That is one way of release stress and make me feel optimistic about our future.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Carley, I'm going to call on you. What have you learned during this time?
I don't know. I feel like I've been in survival mode in a lot of this, so it's like, I would say, I don't know what I have learned about myself, but I do know that I think about learning in general, that people are, in many ways, much more resilient than I think, there's just a lot of examples of that, and for all of the difficulty of what's been the last few months, I would say there's also been this connection and creativity and resilience that's also shown through. So I really appreciate that. And I feel like, I don't know if I learned it or if I just was reminded of that. Maybe that's more accurate, but I guess that's what comes to mind for me. And I don't, I feel like between having two little ones at home and trying to work from home and do everything, I'm just like, my brain is kind of split in a lot of compartments right now, but trying to still, stay above water and connect with people.
Yeah.
Let's see that baby, Carley.
How about you, Marc? What have you learned about yourself these last 6 months?
Well, I guess one thing is that, the pandemic situation of working from home and doing a lot of things over the internet is not grossly different from what I did most of the time beforehand. Mm-hmm. There are fewer meetings in a building with other people, obviously, because we don't do that right now. And I miss some of those. I definitely miss the coffee shop meetings, which, and I've got to know every coffee shop in the Beaverton area because I believe in supporting the independent coffee shops. So it was really nice just the other day to meet with a couple people in the open air seating on First Avenue, right out in front of Lionheart Coffee, which, by the way, is a really fine little institution. And it was really nice to sit with people outdoors, and we were properly distanced, but to kind of have one of those face-to-face meetings, and I do miss that. Frankly, the work that I have to do is actually more efficient when I'm doing it entirely electronically because there's less driving around. Mm-hmm. But it's really nice to get together with people. It's also a lot easier, and with reference to the question Beverly asked earlier, it's easier to get public input on on challenging questions when we can get 25 people in a room and have a little back and forth dialogue. Zoom meetings are a lousy way to get back and forth dialogue. And if you want some strong opinions about that, ask anybody at Sunrise Beaverton, as they've been talking to us about policing matters at council meetings. Back and forth dialogue is just not practical in those circumstances. And what we hired the consultant to do is to go out and have that in a more back and forth kind of way, probably all done by Zoom still. Mm-hmm. So when we get back, get everybody back together again, I think we'll have an easier time having these useful collaborative conversations. And sort of in parallel with that, the other activity that I'm involved in on a personal level is I've been working for 4.5 years to learn to play a string instrument, the viola. And I was 2 terms into my first year at Portland Community College in chamber music classes, playing with other people and getting used to playing music, with other human beings and getting on stage at the end of the term and playing in front of a small audience. And we can't do that right now. So I'm waiting for the opportunity to get back in and actually sit in a room with people and hear the music bouncing off each other and prepare pieces to play in a public setting again. And we can't do that until everybody's comfortable sitting in a room, masked or otherwise. And obviously the flute players and trumpet players of the world will not be doing so masked. So it'll just be us string players at first, I think.
Oh, thank you. How about you, Megan? What have you learned in the last 6 months about yourself?
I have learned quite a bit, I must say. I am very much for lack of a better term, a physical person. I'm a big hugger. I've always been a big hugger. So getting together with my friends this summer and not running up to them and hugging has been extremely tough for myself. So I noticed myself when I was home, I would just walk up to my dad and just touch his shoulder and then walk away. I'm like, oh, okay, I feel better now. So that's been really tough for myself, but the intentionality between myself and my friends and other family members has been really exciting to see that, seeing the intentionality of spending time together, talking, checking in, which has been really nice.
Yeah, thank you. How about you, Sky? What have you learned about yourself? I'm assuming you were.
Sorry. No, I'm still here.
Oh, good.
I am.
Okay.
I just had to pick the right button to push. I don't know. I feel like I've learned, of course, to be grateful for what my family is already set up with. My husband's job has been still very critical, and so I'm grateful that we haven't had fiscal or home struggles. And I mean, I feel like at this point, I've really learned that time is short, that every day goes by quicker than I want it to, that all the time is precious. I turned 40 this year during the pandemic, and it feels like I'm on, I've gone over the top of the ski slope and I'm starting to head down. And so I feel a bit of fervor to appreciate and honor every moment I can.
Good, thank you. And what I've learned during this time is to simplify. I've really embraced taking my time and not rushing around, and just picking things that I really want to do. And I'm so grateful for not having to worry about so many things, that I have food on the table, I had a roof over my head, a loving husband, my kids are good. My son is probably safer in Japan than he would be here. And my daughter is in LA working from home and doing really well. And I can't believe my son is going to be a quarter of a century old tomorrow. It's like, oh, wow. Holy cow. So I just feel a lot of gratitude. And there are things that I miss, but I realize it's really helpful to know what's important. So thank you all.
Can I say something?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, especially for Megan and Sky, it sounds like you've still got parents around. Get to know them better, get into their history and everything. One of the things that I wish I had done before my parents passed is learning more and more about the history of the family and the history of my parents. So think about that. You might have some opportunities you didn't have before with Zoom and other things to get to know those people's life history a little bit better.
Good idea, John. Thank you. Well, this is a wonderful group. I so appreciate you all, and thank you for spending time together. And we can give a group hug. Just hug yourself. And have a wonderful rest of your week. And
can I do one more experiment here? I'm going to share my screen just to see if I can do it.
Okay.
Because at one point or another, I've got to do a presentation. And I'm wondering if you're seeing, what are you seeing?
It says contact sheet. The photos were made into contact sheets. Each sheet.
Okay.
It worked, John. It worked. We're viewing your screen. Yep, it worked.
Okay. This is a presentation I made about the Western River pearl mussel a long time ago. And in the 1980s, I was able to get pictures of them.
John, I'm aware it's time to us for our meeting. Okay, so I just want you to know.
See if I could do it.
Okay, you did it. Congratulations. You're good.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
who would like to call our meeting to end?
Okay, so move.
And second it?
Second.
Thank
I
you.
second.
Have a wonderful week.
You too.
Cheers.
Great
Thanks,
job.
everybody.
Take care.
And
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Sophie, thank you for taking notes.